guys, so recently on Twitter I talked about finishing A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas, and I also talked about wanting to make a video about diversity in books. So when the topic of diversity in books comes up in conversation on BookTube or on Book Twitter or Bookstagram, there's always the question of, does it matter if a book is diverse or not? Does diversity matter? And my answer is always yes. There's obviously no hesitation to that answer. It's just yes. Diversity obviously does matter. And recently on Instagram, I was looking at a story of someone that I follow, and she was very upset because her friend was reading A Court of Thorns and Roses for the first time, just like I am, and her friend didn't understand why she was so upset over the lack of diversity in this book. Despite whether she liked it or not, there was an obvious lack of diversity within A Court of Thorns and Roses, and the friend didn't really understand why she was upset about it. And the thing is that diversity matters, especially to teens and especially to people who never ever see themselves within these kind of books. Fantasy has this issue with diversity. A lot of fantasy books focus on a white, cisgendered, abled, straight main character, and that is an issue with representation because there are a lot of people who are people of color or disabled or LGBTQ plus youth who don't end up seeing themselves represented in this type of media in a positive light. I recently just finished A Court of Thorns and Roses and I gave it a 3 stars on Goodreads, and in that review I talk more about why diversity matters and why the lack of diversity matters in this book particularly. So if you'd like to read my review of this book, it's linked down below, and I go into kind of more detail about why I just didn't like this book very much. However, while I was reading this book, the lack of diversity was really honestly appalling. Like, I was actually very surprised because I read Throne of Glass, and actually this book was more diverse than this book, surprisingly. A Court of Thorns and Roses is extremely white and extremely straight, which is just mind-boggling to me that fantasy can still get away with stuff like this. In fantasy, you're given an unlimited amount of control over what your population looks like and who makes up the population of your fantasy world. And I feel like it's unfair and unjust to make that population mostly white and mostly straight. And in A Court of Thorns and Roses, it felt almost 100% white and 100% straight. And to those saying that people shouldn't force diversity, people who are non-white or non-straight are not political opinions, we're not symbols, and we're not there just to be there. People who are non-white and non-straight are humans just like everyone else, and we deserve to be represented in the media that we consume. The world that we live in is extremely diverse, and I just don't understand how fantasy especially can be so white and straight when the world around us is teeming with diversity. It feels irresponsible to me as a YA writer to not add diversity into a novel and to not give representation to those who don't have representation as much as white and straight people do. And that's not to say that if you like A Court of Thorns and Roses that you're a bad person, or that you like a problematic book that you're a bad person. That's not the point at all. The point is that if you do like these problematic books, that you're able and willing to point out the problematic aspects of those books. For example, one of my all-time favorite movies is Gone with the Wind, and that's kind of a bittersweet favorite of mine because it is extremely problematic, and the representation of slaves in that movie is extremely problematic and wrong and absolutely ahistorical. However, I still enjoy the movie. It still holds a lot of really good memories for me as watching it as a kid and enjoying it throughout my life. And it's definitely a catch-22 with liking it and then also having to acknowledge the problematic elements of that movie. But if you like A Court of Thorns and Roses, I really would appreciate it if you acknowledge the problematic elements of those books. And I think it's just important to remember that there are a lot of people out there that aren't represented in our books, in our media, in our movies, and they deserve that representation just as much as anyone else does. Not only does diversity help marginalized people, but it also helps people who are not marginalized and who see themselves represented in media all the time. By consuming more diverse books, you're opening yourself up to a world of possibilities, and you're also able to face biases that you might have held towards marginalized people. So really, diversity is a win-win situation, and I feel that it is extremely important to add diversity into the YA genre and to promote other diverse books. Diversity is extremely important, and challenging our biases towards marginalized people is going to help the world 10 times over and is going to make the world an ultimately better place, and also YA books a better place. So to finish off this video, I'm going to leave you with this. Diversity is extremely important. Please read diverse books. Please promote diverse books, and just promote diversity within the YA community and outside of that community. And just know that it's really going to positively affect not only other people, but also yourself. And also, if you like A Court of Thorns and Roses, that does not make you a bad person. I didn't personally enjoy it, but I did personally enjoy the Throne of Glass series, which also has its problematic elements, and it might also be a very good idea to look at your favorite books and to kind of dissect those problematic elements that might be in those favorite books. So there you have it. There's my video on diversity. I hope I got everything that I wanted to get out there. I'm not sure. If I didn't, then maybe I'll make another video like this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and leave some of your diverse reads down below and let me know what you thought of them. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!